Hello, my name is Dr. Arthur McClinu. I've dedicated my life to providing surgical care to patients with heart disease. My life began in the slums of Soweto in South Africa, where I learned to overcome adversity and illnesses, including the death of my best friend. That's why I want to be a resource for you and your family for consultation related to heart and cardiovascular needs. You can learn more about me by visiting my website, which is at zuluchaskada.com.
Sports and entertainment show. I am your host, Wilbur Skipper, also known as Mr. Self-Empowerment. We are taping live at the Society Lounge, 8229 Georgia Avenue in Silver Spring, Maryland. What a great establishment, folks. If you have not made it down to the Society Lounge, I highly encourage you to put it on your to-do list for 2013. You will not be disappointed. Once again, the Society Lounge, 8229 Georgia Avenue in Silver Spring, Maryland. As always, folks, I'm very excited. We have a dynamite show on tap for you this evening. Before I introduce our guests, please help me welcome my co-host, the very excitable, the very vibrant, Rain. Our guest hails from the Washington metropolitan area. She attended Duke Ellington School for the Arts. She is one of the, and I want you to get this, she is one of the most sought after costume designers in Hollywood. Yes, Hollywood as in Hollywood, California.
Exciting.
Please help me welcome the one and only Johnetta Boone.
Excited to have you.
Okay.
Excited to have you.
Okay, folks, I'm going to do this a little different. I have to tell this story because there's a lesson learned in this story.
It's a good one.
I'm going to go back to probably September, August. I first met Johnetta Boone in church, First Baptist Church at Glen Arden. I went to school with her husband, played basketball with him at Anacostia High School. We had some dialogue in the hallway after church, a great service to say the least. And Johnetta Boone walks out of the bookstore. And her husband introduces me to his lovely wife and his kids, and we exchange business information, and we talk about possibly getting Johnetta on the show. Folks, there's a lesson that I want you to learn from this, and please get this, young folks and older folks. We have been corresponding, emailing, texting since that time. Johnetta has a very busy schedule, but we didn't give up. And the lesson learned here is that sometimes when you want things to happen on your time, it's not the right time. God's time is the best time, and when God wants it to happen, it will happen. And so we're elated and ecstatic to have Johnetta Boone on this set today. I hope I said it right, folks. I did not practice this. This came right off my tongue. Johnetta, we have you here. True story?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, true story.
Yes.
Now, we have a lot to talk about.
Yes.
And Rain has done a masterful job.
Wow.
Of coming to understand how you think, how you walk, and what you do.
I've got a lot of questions. Let's put it that way.
But I want to go back. I want to start at the beginning.
Yes.
When did you first think or believe, you want to go back to Duke Ellington, you can, that this vision, what you're doing now, how did that come into play?
It actually came into play at Duke while I was attending Duke Ellington. I was a visual arts major. I was part of a whole fashion trend at the school, and then I sort of had a vision that one day I could possibly reach the Hollywood sector, but didn't know how it was going to happen because I was from Anacostia. Being a young black girl with absolutely no connections at the time, it didn't seem attainable.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, I like the fact that you said Anacostia.
Yes.
Because, unfortunately, there's a myth sometimes that's attached to Anacostia.
Yes.
And some folks believe that if you grew up in Southeast Washington, D.C., or you went to Anacostia High School, all that kind of stuff, that you were not going to make it. Well, you are a true example
Yes.
of what can happen if you persevere, keep your mind focused.
Yes.
It's not a bad place to be, and obviously you're making it happen right now.
Absolutely. Well, Anacostia used to have a stigmatism or have a certain status that was not desirable, but now it's not that case at all.
Right.
It's the extended Capitol Hill area.
Exactly.
But indeed, when I was going to school or growing up in the Anacostia area, I was bused to Georgetown 2 hours every morning and every evening to go to Duke Ellington.
Wow.
And I got on the bus at 6 o'clock in the morning. We stayed after school, and then I didn't get home sometimes until 8 o'clock at night.
Sacrifice.
Because it was a sacrifice indeed.
Yeah, and so, go ahead.
But the arts persevered. I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity, and it just changed my life, as you can see.
Because you're sitting here today.
Yes.
I love the fact that you talk about the challenges from Anacostia coming. Can you talk to us about a little bit about that
Sure.
driver, how different it was? Like, were you the only one on the bus and they're like, so we're picking her up from Anacostia, she's different. Did you feel different, or what was challenging at that point?
Actually, I didn't feel different at all because the way my background is, my family raised me to always feel like I was a part and never really recognize the color barriers that were present. So I got on the bus, kept my head up, kept my nose in the air, so to speak, but also had a clear mind. Crossed the barrier, because once you leave Anacostia, you cross into the Capitol Hill area, then you cross into Georgetown. It's obviously a completely different world. You get off the bus, you walk 2 blocks to school, and then you recognize an environment that's almost like a dream. I mean, it's a large, Duke Ellington's a large white building,
Right.
That was just full of creativity, spurring from the stone that it was existing in. So it was quite wonderful.
Well, when we go back, because we all have a story,
Sure.
who are some of the people early on in your life that played a very valuable role in where you are right now as Johnetta Boone, this most sought-after costume designer in Hollywood, California? I mean, who are some of those people?
Well, I have to first say my mother, of course, because, my mother was she was a local fashion designer, and she taught me how to sew, and during the course of my sewing, learning moments in time, I made several mistakes, and I would throw things in the garbage and think that, sort of kick it under the table and think that it would go unnoticed, and it didn't. And so my mother would take it out of the trash and say, okay, now take it apart and start over again. And of course, that was devastating, because who wants to do that?
Yeah.
Especially as a young girl. I was 12, 13 years old, and I did not want to do that at all. But that set the standard for me, because once I entered into, for instance, interactions with my art teachers at Ellington, and when they say, okay, take the clay apart and start over again with your sculpture, it was easy for me to do, easier than it would have been otherwise. And then going from there, my teachers, Bill Harris and a couple of my other teachers, Mr. Wilson, they had a great part in my development stage. And then once I left Duke Ellington and went to New York to go to college, Joanne Butler, who was a great catalyst in everything that happened in my life, she was my dear friend's aunt, and she was an editor at Harper's Bazaar. She went freelance and then brought us in as her assistants, and that's where it all sort of began.
So you were surrounded around a lot of people
Yes.
that, ideally speaking, was already almost kind of speaking this into existence.
Yes.
When it came to you in terms of your future.
Yes.
Did you realize that then, before Rain jumps in? Did you realize that at that time?
I didn't realize it at the time, because when you're young, you don't really focus and hone in on how your life is birthing before you. But it's good, because if you do that, you could take advantage of opportunities that may not be the ones that you need to step into at the time, because you think you know what's going on, as opposed to allowing your life to sort of grow and enhance and develop, before you, and allow people to pour into your life.
Wow.
And as a result of my stepping back out of the frame of things and letting people pour into my life began to really harvest. You plant a seed, you have to water it harvests, and then you watch it grow. And then as it grew, I was like a bird that was birthed by, a mother bird. And then they left, and they kicked me out of the nest and said, okay, now it's your time to fly. I didn't say, When is my time to fly? I'm ready now. They said to me, you're ready. And I said, not yet. And they said, yes, you are. And I said, not yet. And they said, yes, you are. And so as a result, when they pushed me out, I was ready. I had a strong foundation. I was completely prepared and then set up to succeed as opposed to setting myself up to fail.
Well, folks, we're going to come right back. It's getting fired up on the set.
Yeah,
Y'all don't see
great
the smoke that's coming. Before Rain jumps in, we're going to take a commercial break. We're going to pay some bills. We'll be right back on the Roland Grimes, Not Just Sports and Entertainment Show. Sit tight.